Hello, and thank you for joining me again today as we look at the book of Proverbs and see God's wisdom from Proverbs. We're going to pick up right where we left off in Proverbs chapter number 3, beginning in verse number 27, reading down through verse number 30. So Proverbs chapter number 3, verse 27 through 30. We're going to get right into it today. Proverbs 3:27 reads, "Withhold not good from them to whom it is due, when it is in the power of thine hand to do it. Say not unto thy neighbor, Go, and come again, and tomorrow I will give, when thou hast it by thee. Devise not evil against thy neighbor, seeing he dwelleth securely by thee. Strive not with a man without cause, if he have done thee no harm." And perhaps you've heard the saying that strong fences make good neighbors. The idea there being that basically if you stay on your property and leave me alone, and I stay on my property and leave me alone, and we just kind of go our separate ways, we can wave, smile, and say hi to each other, but that's as far as we want to go with our relationship, and that be the end of it. But the Bible has a lot to say about our neighbors, how we treat our neighbors. Jesus Christ taught a little bit about that in his parables, but also here in the book of Proverbs we'll see a constantly recurring theme of the treatment of those around us, especially those that are our neighbors or those that are closest to us. And so here in Proverbs chapter 3, Solomon gives his son some wisdom from God. "Withhold not good from them to whom it is due, when it is in the power of thine hand to do it." And there are a couple words in the Bible that we hear. One of those is righteousness, and one of those is holiness. And each of those words describes something different. We often associate them in very similar terms, but they are different. Holiness is a state of living without sin or not living in sin. And so we consider someone holy who is living without sin in their life. And God is holy. God is holy. There is no sin in God. There's no darkness in God. And he does not commit any sin. But righteousness is different than holiness. Righteousness is the active doing of right, or it's a positive. Okay, holiness has to do with something that can be to a degree passive in the sense that we are not doing certain things. Okay, but righteousness is active in that we are doing that which is right. So one can be holy in the sense that they are not sinning and yet lack active righteousness in which they are actively doing to help others. And what Solomon is saying, or the doing of right, and what Solomon is saying here is in a similar sense, he's broaching upon a subject of how we treat our neighbors. Often we think we're good neighbors if we don't do wrong or don't do harm to our neighbors, okay? But here Solomon is saying there's a little bit more to it than that. He says, "Withhold not good from them to whom it is due, when it is in the power of thine hand to do it." So he's not just saying refrain from doing bad to others, but also withhold not doing good. So as a Christian especially, I need to be concerned with not just refraining from that which is wrong, but actively seeking to do that which is right so that I may help those around me and help those who are in need. If I see someone who is in need and I have it in the power of my hand to help them, what God is telling me is he expects me and he wants me to reach out and help that person, not just sit on the sidelines and pray for them, although we should pray for them. But if God has put it within our power to help them, we can actively answer prayers by helping other people and by actively reaching out to them. Verse 28 says, "Say not unto thy neighbor, Go and come again, and tomorrow I will give, when thou hast it by thee." So here he's not only saying, not only should we make sure that we are extending ourselves to help meet the needs of other people, we should not delay it. We should not delay it. If we know someone has a need and we have the answer to help meet that need, or something that could help meet that need, and our neighbor is actively looking for help in those areas, we should not be refraining from our hand and saying, "You know what, come back tomorrow, I'll give you a hand." When I read this, I'm reminded of the parable of the man who went to his friend to ask him for loaves, and he was knocking on the door, and it was midnight, and his friend said to him, "It's midnight, go away." He said, I come back tomorrow. He said, "Well, I'm in bed. My family's in bed." And the man kept knocking. He says, "Listen, I need some food. I'm here. I have a friend who's come in the midnight, and he's staying at my house, and I have nothing to set before him. Can you lend me some bread so I can feed him?" And Christ used that as an illustration to remind us that we all have our limits, don't we? We all have our limits when we say, you know what, I'm done, come back, maybe tomorrow we can deal with this, maybe another time. But what he's saying is we need to actively be ever ready to help those that are in need, especially when we have it in our hand to do so, and not just take a back seat, not just put it off, say, hey, listen, let me get in there and let me help as much as I possibly can while it is in the power of my hand to do it. God is great. God gives to us. God gives to us things that he allows into our lives so that we can help others with them. Not everything God gives us is for us. Not everything God gives us is for us to hang on to and hold on to. But God will give us things in this life so that we can pass them on to someone else who may need them. Verse 29, devise not evil against thy neighbor, seeing he dwelleth securely by thee. There again, now he's getting into the act of doing of wrong. First he talks about how we ought to actively do right. Then devise not evil against thy neighbor. Devise means to don't plot. Don't plot or plan evil against your neighbor, seeing he dwelleth securely by thee. Now, obviously he's talking about someone within the general vicinity, and we think of a neighbor as the person who lives next door. And he's saying, hey, listen, your neighbor lives next door and expects that you are going to be the type of neighbor that is not going to do him harm or do him evil purposefully. And we ought not to be the type of person, even someone that lives next to us that we think might deserve it. We are not to be the person that plots evil against those who are our neighbors. We should never be that way, seeing that they're living right next to us. There's a certain amount of trust they ought to have with us, knowing that we're not going to act out against them. But we can also apply that in a broader sense to those who dwell securely by us in other means than just living next to us. For example, our children, they trust in us as their parents to do for them the right things. Okay, in a sense, as this verse says, they dwell securely by us, or they trust in us because of their close proximity of the relationship. And therefore, we ought not to devise evil against our children. We shouldn't be plotting and planning how to take from them and harm them and live off them simply because we have a close relationship and then take advantage of that relationship there. It's the same thing with all our relationships of people that trust us, people who have a relationship where they're in a position of authority. Say someone maybe is a boss at a workplace, or someone who is a teacher at a school, or someone who is a pastor of a church, or is a politician who has been granted a public trust. Okay, these people have been trusted or entrusted with their position, and there's an expectation level because of that trust, and should not be devising evil against those who trust that they are going to do the right thing. It is a great evil for us to harm others. Okay, it is a greater evil for us to harm those who are trusting that we will not. We think of politicians and we get so upset because, they're given a public trust, and they many times violate that trust by the actions that they take and the laws sometimes that they make and the way in which they take from us so that they can give back little bits and portions from us, or they take advantage of their office to enrich themselves, and we get so upset about them violating their public trust. But we must remember that others have trust in us. And we must be sure that we're not devising ways in which we can use our trust in a way that harms others and enriches us at the same time. The last verse there, verse 30, says, strive not with a man without cause, if he have done thee no harm. And again, reminding us that there are some things that we just should not do to other people. We just should not do it. We should not stir up strife. Okay, we shouldn't be doing that. We should not be going around trying to create problems for others. We should not be going around trying to start arguments with other people. Strive not with a man without cause. Okay, striving is arguing, fighting in a way, strongly disagreeing, bringing up contention and tension in relationships. Hey, if there's no cause for that, just let it go. I think there's another saying, let sleeping dogs lie. Meaning, hey, listen, if everything is just calm, just let it be. Especially if someone has not done harm to us, why would we go about purposely stirring up trouble with other people when we don't have to? It means cut the drama out of our lives. Cut it out. Don't be a drama stirrer. Don't be the one who's got to get on the phone and start causing drama through gossip and the words that we say. Let's not be the type of person that feels like we have to confront everything that we think needs corrected in everyone else's life, especially if people haven't done us any harm. Just let it go and let it be. That's not to say there isn't a time for standing up for moral rights and standing against moral wrong. There is a time for that. And there is a way to do that also that gives a strong stand in what it is we believe and could cause problems, but isn't there to purposefully stir up strife, but stand for what's right. So some good, solid wisdom from the Lord, reminding us that when it's in the power of our hand to help others, let us do so. Let us not delay. Let us not act as though we have no means to help others when God gives us the means to do so. Let us not devise evil or against those who trust in us, dwell securely by us, those who expect that we're going to live a life where they can trust what we do is not going to harm them. Let us not be plotting against them and using the relationships that we have to enrich ourselves at the harm and hurt to others. And then let us not go about creating drama and strife where no drama and strife is needed. Let's learn to let things go. And sometimes we've got to let hurts go. But especially if we have not been hurt in any way, just let things be. Confront what has to be confronted, and deal with what has to be dealt with. And after that, just let things lie. Let things lie. All right, God bless you. Hope it's been a blessing to you. And we'll see you all again very, very soon.